I think the single greatest differentiator between the poor and the middle class and rich and the truly wealthy is...
I think you gotta have a dream.
The School of Greatness.
Really? Yeah.
Please welcome Lewis Howes.
Now, what's the difference between someone who's selling all the time and someone who's never selling and doing a disservice because they don't offer someone to buy something? When they know, like, okay, I have this coaching program or this course or this thing where I know you could get value if you took action, but maybe they shy away from it because they want to focus on brand so much and not be the salesperson. But then it's actually doing a disservice because they're not in your program.
So I think it actually has less to do with the ratio of how much they're selling versus serving in their content, but more so the ratio of selling and serving overall. Because most times, because of this, like we were talking before this about the internet marketing space in general, is that most people's products are not serving.
They're good.
Terrible. Right, they're terrible. And so what happens is, like, it is the most right hook of right hooks possible. Like, you just lose a ton of goodwill with the thing. Apple doesn't lose goodwill when they come out with an iPhone. Everyone's just excited about it, and they use the iPhone, and they tell their friends. So the difference is in the goodwill that comes with the quality of the product. And so I think that's where the issue is. It's not like, do I sell or do I not sell? It's just, is the thing that I'm selling, and the vast majority of people who are pitching all the time are natural promoters, not product people.
Right.
And so, like, most times the greatest product people, like Naval had this quote that I really like. He said, you're only selling because you don't know how to market. And you only market because you don't know how to build a product. Because, like, the best products market and sell themselves. Now, obviously, if you're Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, it's like you build amazing products and then you back them with unbelievable marketing, and then you have an army of salespeople that you know are selling for you. So it's like, then you have them all, and then you have a $1 trillion company.
Yeah.
But, like, just being exceptional at any of those will make you money. But you get the multiplicative, compounding effect if you're good at 2 or 3 of them.
Right. Were you always good at making money? Or was there a time where you were like, man, I'm just broke, struggling, and trying to figure this thing out?
Depends on, like, how much we're defining. You know what I mean? Like, right out of I finished college in 3 years and then did the management consulting path. And so, like, out of college, I was making like $50,000 a year.
Right.
And I lived in Baltimore, so, like, my cost of living was like $5. And so, so I was able to save a bunch of money. So I saved $50,000 in 2 years.
Wow.
Living there, and that's what I was able to start my gym with.
Did you understand money when you were in your teens or growing up, or did you feel like you were scared of it, or it was scarce? Or were you thinking, I'm not really worried about money, it'll come when I'm ready?
I've always been a saver. I've always been a saver, not a huge spender. I think part of it is because I don't get a lot of, like, when I pay $1, I feel something different. And most times if I buy something, I don't feel any different, so I don't get a lot of utility out of spending it. Right, I just don't get a lot from it. I think I've been aware of that for a long time. And so, like, if you don't spend a lot and you make even a normal amount of money for a decent amount of time, you end up having a lot. And my income went up. I would say that there's definitely elements of scarcity that I believed in for a long time, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
around competition was one.
Tell me about it. What was that about?
So, like, when I had my gyms, for example, this is, almost a decade ago, I was so concerned with the guy down the street who does marketing. Is he copying my ads? Like, I used to get so obsessed with this stuff, and, like, it just so doesn't matter, like, at all. Like, he could copy, and we could both have really big, successful gyms. It's not like there's a lack of people who need to get in shape.
Right.
And then even then, it's like, we're only talking about a 5-mile radius, not like the rest of the world. Like, there's just orders of magnitude of thinking in terms of scale that I was just, like, completely, like, aloof to.
What happens when we focus on competition so much? What happens to our ability to scale, grow, our creativity, our money-making abilities?
I think you become emotionally reactive to the activities of the other person. And so you're truly focused on nothing that adds value. And so it's because it's not the competition, like, competitors don't put you out of business, but you obsessing over competitors does.
Right. What should people be doing instead of obsessing over competition?
It's all customers. It's all just being, because, like, if you can get, there's a billionaire in my building who, he was asked on he's like, if you had one thing that you could tell someone if they wanted to build, a company like yours, and he said, your customer must absolutely love your product. A lot of people just underestimate the amount of effort it takes to go from good to great in a product or a service. It's like, if you've ever been to, like, the difference between a 5-star restaurant and a 4-star restaurant, looks like 20%, but it's 10 times the effort. You know what I mean? The difference between, like, a 1 Michelin star and a 2 Michelin star restaurant is an ocean.
Right.
And so I think like I use the book as an example because it's an easy one to reference. Most people try and just write a book. And then once the final word is done, they're like, send it to the editor, edit it, cool, and let's ship it out. But like that book, I rewrote 5 times, end to end, the whole thing. And each time the goal was to make it shorter. It's like, how can I say this in fewer words? How can I say this in less words? And in doing that, and the same thing happened with Gym Launch with that product, is that every time we created a 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.0, we made it shorter. How can we make it easier to consume? And then ultimately, that was the reason we wrote the book about the value equation. It's like, what is value?
Right.
How do we define that? And so if we're customer focused, we can obsess on value and then have a very iterative approach. And I think that you came from the internet marketing world, like, and I've given this in like a couple of like closed door masterminds where I'm like, guys, like you all say that your product's amazing. And I'm like, what's your CRC? What's your CHS? What's your NPS scores? What are your TTVs? And they're like, huh? I'm like, well, if I asked you your CPM, your CPL, your cost per book call, your cost of acquisition, like all of these things, you could rattle those off in 2 seconds. I'm like, so you guys say that your product's amazing, and yet you don't measure a single metric around product.
Wow.
And
so focusing on that more.
Right.
Yeah.
So they just, so the thing is like, if we can get that part right, then you get so much, because if we can just get each customer to get one more customer, then we get our return on ad spend doubles.
Right.
But then if you think about what your contribution margin is on that extra customer, if you don't have to spend the cost of acquisition, so much of that drops to the bottom line. And then the company just becomes so much more profitable.
Yeah.
Just by like tiny levers that we do here. Like how can we take, with, I think we were talking earlier about our publishing business. We're like, okay, publishing is something that takes a long time to do. How can we figure out TTV is time to value? So how can we figure out some sort of experience or some sort of win someone can have in the first 7 days? Like how can we get them $1? Is there anything that we can do to prove
launching their book?
Yeah, exactly. Like some proof of concept, and we were able to figure out how to. We're talking about mini book, get that going in a very short period of time, so that people could just. And we're like, hey guys, this isn't MVP. This isn't your perfect product. We just want to prove to you that it works. And so then they get $1 in their account. They're like, and we're like, you are now an entrepreneur.
Get some momentum.
Yeah. And now you have that identity shift that happens. It's like, I just made money on the internet. Like, yeah, you did. Now let's do a real book that's like really good. Like this is not the product, but this is proof of concept. And so that was like a more creative one we had to do. But like in other businesses, it's like, how can we always drag forward at least some sort of big win so we get the emotional buy-in to then fall through. Like when we had the gyms way back in the day, I would run people through like a 6-week really aggressive diet in the beginning. And that was because even though the sustainable weight loss it takes a much longer period of time, et cetera. The slower you lose it, the longer it sticks off. But the faster you lose in the beginning, the more likely you are to stick with it.
Interesting.
So you get this emotional buy-in, and you're like, cool, okay, we just did a lot of weight loss in 6 weeks. I need you to chill for 6.
Right.
And then they're like, but now they believed us because we had just delivered, a big win kind of.
They got results.
Exactly.
Quickly.
Yeah. And so it's like, we know how to do it, but now but like, you can trust that we do know how. But now let's just maintain for 6 weeks, get your hormones back, make sure everything's good, hunky-dory, but a little bit more muscle because you lost some during this kind of aggressive cut.
Yeah.
And then then we'll get into a more sustainable phase.
Right.
So it's just how can we drag that forward? And I think that level of obsession, the way people obsess about promotion, if they obsess the same way about product, the amount of profit they would make as a result of that is just like, it's huge. And those are sellable businesses. The marketing-driven businesses do not have nearly the enterprise value that the product-driven businesses do.
So would you say the key to going from good to great is obsessing on product greatness?
100%.
What if someone, they have any product, a physical product, digital product, coaching, a software, and they're watching or listening, what should they be thinking about to making the product that much better? They've put a lot of time and energy launching it, building it, they've got sales, maybe they've had it for a year or two. How do they break it all down? And is it 20 different factors? Is it like just do these 3 things and it's going to improve the quality of your product? Yeah. What should they think about?
It's a really good question. So there's like 3 different angles I want to take this. So one is like what I talked about in the book, which is like the value equation. So
what is that?
So there's 4 variables in the value equation. The first one is the dream outcome, which is the thing that I'm delivering fundamentally valuable? And this is especially for people probably more so who are trying starting out in their like entrepreneurial career.
You want to draw it out for me too if you want to.
Sure.
Well, I'll hold it up for people. Yeah.
So you've got your dream outcome. So I'll just put dream here, right? You've got dream outcome, which is the first variable. The second variable is the perceived likelihood of achievement. And so the idea is, and I'll give you an example of this. If you have, let's say you wanted to get plastic surgery, whatever, and
is that what you did with your calves?
That's exactly what I did. If you wanted to get plastic surgery and you had the option of two guys who are going to do the surgery, one guy has done 10,000 surgeries and one guy is fresh out of medical school, this is his first surgery, which guy would you go with? Probably 10,000. It might even take this guy half the time to do the surgery as this guy.
And so, double the price.
Right.
Yeah.
So we might, and it's double the price. Why? Because of the perceived likelihood of achievement. We believe that when we pay this man, we are more likely to achieve what we want. Even though the work is the same, probably longer on this side, but our perception of what we're going to get in a real way increases prior to purchase, which is the same reason that if you have like 20 people who told you that this restaurant is amazing,